The following episode of the Maui Chamber of Commerce's Business Matters was originally broadcast on August 16th, 2022.
All right, it's time now for Business Matters, brought to you by Mokulele Airlines. And now here's your host, Pam Toompop.
Aloha and welcome to the Business Matters radio show sponsored by Mokulele Airlines. I'm your host, Pamela Toompop, president of the Maui Chamber of Commerce. And this is a big election year. Many have said it's going to be one of the most important elections in history. So today we're going to talk about the results from the primary election with Rod Antone, and then we're going to talk about one of Maui Chamber of Commerce's amazing members, Maui Bread Company, and learn more about their kihei business. But first, I'd like to tell you a little bit about Rod Antone. Many of us in Hawaii know Rod as a former television and award-winning print journalist who spent most of his career working as a reporter at various statewide media outlets, including KHON Channel 2, KHNL, Channel 8, and the Honolulu Star Bulletin. In 2006, he left the islands and started working in a public relations campaign and doing campaign consulting and marketing. He later returned to Maui to work as the communications consultant for Maui Economic Opportunity, and then was accepting different writing assignments for Maui News, the Star Advertiser, Maui no Ko'oi, but then was hired by former Mayor Alan Arakawa as the communications director. And so he was still very involved in doing communications reporting, including news and all sorts of articles and press releases under that administration. And he also was a business communications lecturer at the University of Hawaii Maui College. So before teaching at UH Maui College, he served also as a staff advisor for Ho'olu, which was a college newspaper. So Rod has had a very broad career in communications and campaigning. Back when his family moved to New Mexico in 2008, he was hired as the deputy press secretary for U.S. Congressman Steve Pierce, and from there went on to work for the AGF and Associates in 2009. As part of their political consulting team in Hungary and the European Union elections. Imagine that. So he has done a lot of media consulting. He has done a lot of elections work. And this is a Maui boy born and raised in Paia, graduate of Maui High School, who went on to earn a Bachelor of Science degree in Broadcast News from the University of Colorado at Boulder. So, good morning, Rod, and we're so thrilled to have you on this morning to talk about elections.
Hey, good morning, Pam.
Well,
thanks for the very thorough introduction. I forgot I did some of that stuff.
Isn't that kind of always the way it goes? As we get older, we forget some of those things.
Sitting here listening, I was like, oh, yeah, I did do that. I did work there. Oh,
yeah. I mean, you really have had just an amazing career in both media and doing work in elections. When I learned about the work that you were doing on the European elections, I was floored. I had never known that about you.
Yeah, no, that was quite a trip to Budapest, and to learn that their political, it was wild. Never even heard of the European Union until I got there.
You're like, wait just a minute. Tell us a little bit about that. Yeah, I mean that was fascinating. How different are those elections from our elections?
Well, European Union is kind of their United Nations, except it's just for Europe, and each country has a number of seats, and so so each political party vies for their seats. I think there were like 6. It's not like the U.S. where there's Democrats and Republicans. They've got socialists, that they've got the extreme left, extreme right, and the conservatives. And each one, fighting for as many spots as they could get. I remember we did very well, and our clients got, I think, 14 or 15 out of 22. So that was good.
Wow.
Yeah,
wow,
that was a good trip. Yep. Yeah.
What an exciting time, and what a different system. So it's not limited by the number of seats in a region. I mean, that's interesting. You just fight for, it's a free for all.
Also learned to love Hungarian food.
Ooh, I like Hungarian food. It's been a long time since I've had it, to be honest with you. I don't know that we have any Hungarian food on Maui.
No, you got to try cook it yourself.
Okay, good point. I'll have to do a little research. Well, tell me just a quick snippet. I know that you are somebody who's very involved in watching the elections. And tell me a little bit about your predictions this year at the primary.
Sure. Yeah, no, I had a decent track record this year. Did interviews with Civil Beat and Hawaii News Now about how I thought at least the county seats were going to play out for the primary. And I think a lot of people saw the same thing happening. The Bisson campaign was very aggressive with a lot of advertising and home meetings and radio ads and all that stuff. And so, it seemed to me they were going to make a lot of headway. The Victorino campaign was also didn't start out as aggressive, but as the campaign season wore on, I saw them catching up to Bisson, and the printouts showed that what we saw was right. Bisson has a lead. It's not much. Victorino's right there behind him, so that'll be a very interesting general that we're going into for the mayor's race.
Yeah, that'll be hotly contested.
Yeah, and I wasn't counting out either of the council members, Mike Molina or Kelly King, but, it seemed like Mike didn't have as many volunteers to help him with, sign waving. I don't know if I heard any ads from him.
I didn't hear any ads either. Yeah.
Kelly King, while popular, as a former county council chair, she entered the race late, and I have no idea why. I haven't spoken to her or any of her people, and so I think that hurt her. She did try to get aggressive. I saw some great YouTube ads online. I saw them quite frequently for Kelly King, but too little too late, apparently.
Were you surprised by the numbers? I was surprised by the numbers.
Are you talking about the voter turnout?
Yeah. I was surprised by that too, but also the vast difference between the numbers for Bisson and Victorino and Kelly.
No, that did surprise me. Like I said, the Bisson campaign to me appeared very aggressive. Yeah. I don't think I've seen a challenger who wasn't the incumbent. Well, I guess it's Arakawa. When he came back to take his office back from Charmaine Tavares. I mean, he was a challenger, and he came in very strong, and we know how that played out. And Bisson, from the beginning, he was a very popular. A very popular candidate, and even when I was in office, former Mayor Arakawa had said once or twice before if he ever ran, he'd be a shoo-in. So there's been talk of him running for quite some time. And it wasn't from him. It was people saying that he would make a good candidate.
That's interesting because a lot of people questioned, including me, questioned why he was, running at this time. But I will say that he coming out and running and explaining why he was running, and he was running for future generations and for his children and his children's children, and given the housing issue. But, I mean, he really made the rounds. He went out and worked in the community, and his signs were everywhere.
You hit the nail on the head. He made the rounds. Yeah. I mean, that's literally what happened, It seemed like his campaign was everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, kudos to boots on the ground and his campaign people working pretty hard. But I wouldn't count, of course. You can't count the incumbent out. Like I said, the Victorino campaign was picking up steam.
Yep, absolutely.
And we've got the entire this whole period before the general. So if they keep going the way they were going before the primary, I mean they could take over.
Yep.
But it's hard to keep it. The momentum. You got to keep it going.
Well, and there's a considerable amount of votes, right, that are now going to shift. I mean, we saw Kelly had 6,350. Kim Brown, see Kim Brown outpace Mike Molina was interesting.
Yeah, well, she was aggressive. Aggressive. I saw ads for her.
Yeah.
Also, yeah. But and that you bring up a good point. So, between the primary and the general, some of the winners, somebody from the Bisson campaign may approach one of the candidates and say, "Hey, do you want to support my campaign now? Do you think your voters will come over to our side?" And that makes a difference. The way I see it, I think Kelly King may support, and I again haven't talked to anybody, but just strategically, I think Kelly King, I think Victorino might reach out to Kelly King, and I think Bisson might reach out to Molina. And the reason I say this is Kelly King may want to run again, and it's better for her to support the candidate with one term remaining rather than the Bisson campaign, which would have 2 more terms.
Right.
And then, Mike, Mike's a good friend. I've worked with him for years. I don't think after this campaign that he's going to try again. And so he could support the Bisson campaign since it doesn't matter to him.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe both. And then we got Kim Brown's votes. So there's a lot of phone calls to be made. Because those votes are out there and they make a difference. I can tell you, the Arakawa campaign talking to Randy Piltz after the primary and getting his support made a different.
Yeah, that's right. The reaching out and building the bridges after the primary. And building those alliances is really important because there's quite a few votes out there, and the margin is not that wide between Bisson and Victorino.
No, those votes will make a difference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is going to be a really interesting election year. How did you fare on some of the council races?
I did well there too. All right. So we talked earlier, but two standing council members leaving their position to run for mayor. So now you've got two council seats with no incumbent, and that's when the challengers all come out to play because everybody feels like they got a better chance. So one of them's in my district, and I want to come out and say that I am good friends with Bruce U'u, whose daughter, Nohe U'u, is running for the seat, and she was the top vote getter.
Yeah.
She had a lot of support. I just
Let's
want to
talk
make it
about her support
clear
for
out
a minute.
there that when we talk, I do my best to give unbiased opinions based upon how the campaigns and everything like that. But I am supporting the Nohe campaign. So just want to make sure everybody knows there's no
I appreciate that.
hiding that. But also I will make my comments based upon, again, the activity of the campaign, which they had a very active campaign.
Raising more money than, the amount of money that campaign raised.
It's
it was staggering. Well above every other candidate and well above most campaigns.
Yes.
I don't know what the final numbers were, but early on they were saying, her fundraising was off the chart.
I think it was more than any Maui County Council candidate had ever raised.
Yeah.
At least a non-incumbent.
Yeah.
A challenger. Yeah. And I can give my opinions on why that is, of course. People point to her father's involvement in the Carpenters Union, and of course that's very appealing to, I would think, everybody in the construction industry and some business people, but also
and people who care a great deal about housing.
Yeah. Also look at her. She's Native Hawaiian, and she has a young family, and her husband is a firefighter. Never cut that out.
Yeah.
The popularity of the Maui County firefighters. And, just a whole bunch of reasons.
Well, and also, if people watched when she was applying for, she applied for being on a board and commission, and I can't remember if it was planning, but she was, while they didn't approve her for the commission because her husband was a firefighter, people said, please apply again. People were very impressed with her. The council was very impressed with her.
Yeah.
In the process.
And she's very well spoken, so, that's just some of the reasons why I think she's a good candidate. Dave De Leon, that was interesting. So it took a while for the last printout to come out, and Dave De Leon was ahead, and we know Dave, and long time with Realtors, RAM, Realtors Association of Maui County, a reporter as well, former communication director. The only guy I know that's been on two charter commissions.
I know that, just such a huge wealth of expertise. People seem to really think it was going to come down to Dave and Noe.
Well, honestly, I did not. Just because the Ohana Coalition, or I don't know, I don't know if that's still their name, but they're very well organized. They've really turned themselves into a political power, over the last couple of decades, and I knew they Narrabeen had their support. And so, I expected them to come out pretty strong to get her into the primary. And I expect them to come out even stronger for Narrabeen and all of their selected candidates that they want to support. And actually, I'd like to mention, I don't know Nara, but I know the Boone family. I think there's like 10 brothers and sisters. I was telling somebody that, everybody had a Boone in their high school class. For the last,
That's interesting. I didn't know that.
And their mother was a midwife or is a midwife, and they're a very well respected and popular family name here on Maui as well. So I think with the Ohana support and her family name, she's these two women. Nohe and Nara, or that's going to be a good race. And I already said who I support, but I don't know if I feel comfortable enough to call this one. I think it's going to be close.
Okay, so this is definitely one to watch. And, folks, we want to encourage people again on these races. This is one to watch, and it's really important to remember that at the county council level, all of our council members represent us all. So this is a great one to really do your homework on. When we get to these really high races, and if you're unsure, do your homework. Read up about the different candidates.
Definitely read all the media interviews that are going to happen, or that have happened, and there'll probably be more between now and the general. Listen to them talk. This is a good opportunity to learn about your candidate.
Yeah, absolutely. What were some of the other ones that maybe either surprised you or you predicted?
That I wasn't surprised about.
or you weren't surprised about.
Yeah. So, let's go to the other Kelly King. So the absence of Kelly King, of course, people. A bunch of challengers ran for the South Maui seat to replace her. And, Tom Cook, to me, had the advantage because he kind of had a trial run in the 2020 elections. And real quickly, the 2020 elections were terrible for any challenger that was running because of COVID. You couldn't have big fundraisers. You couldn't do big sign wavings. There were no in-person debates. I mean, there was just no way for you to really meet the public and talk to people. And so really the incumbents were safe to me. There was no way any challenger could get any traction.
Yeah.
This time it's different. So Tom laid down the groundwork, and he's out there, and I knew he was going to get in, and I also knew Robin Knox would get in again because she is getting support from the Ohana Group, and same thing. I expect Ohana Group to come out with support for their candidates even stronger during the election. I felt like they were kind of holding back, and you're gonna really see them because once they put out that Ohana Coalition supports these candidates. It's like a candidate guide.
Yeah.
I mean that really boosts the awareness of a lot of their supporters, and they say, okay, these are the guys we're going to vote for. And they come out and they vote.
Yeah.
Again, this is going to be close. Tom and Robin, Tom's going to have to get aggressive. He's already been aggressive. It's been a good, he's run a solid campaign, but he's going to have to keep up with what I predict will be a very aggressive Ohana Coalition support campaign for Robin Knox.
Yeah. And I want to add, and thankfully we weren't we weren't seeing a lot of ugly attacks on the county level. Lord knows we were seeing things get pretty wild on the state level with ugly attacks.
I saw some ugly attacks, but it was on, social media, Facebook. I saw.
Yes.
Yeah. There's an attempt to have a political blog on Maui, and that person did their research, campaign spending, and tried pointing out some things. For the most part, it did not get ugly.
Yeah.
I don't think it'll get ugly during the general, but I could be very, very wrong.
Well, I'd just like to make a plug, folks, for, the community is really tired of ugly. And I can't tell you, just even on the television advertising that people saw, how many calls that I received. And it was on the statewide side and with some of the television advertising, it was early. I mean, the punches were being thrown early. It was those kind of races where the decisions, were likely going to be made in the primary. But people were, we're coming out of COVID. We're coming out of a time when we're trying to unite and get, embrace the aloha spirit. And that was one of the things that was surprising. I mean, people know that I'm a proponent of the aloha spirit and have a show specifically on that to take people on that journey. But beyond people knowing that, I can't tell you how many people who maybe don't even connect with that part of what I do, who said to me, this is not Hawaii. This is not the aloha spirit. This is not the way we behave or divide lines. And it's disenfranchising the voters. And it would seem to me that if you're running for elected office, you want to encourage voting, and you want to behave in a way that garners people's support. So I just really want to encourage that we...
That's a very sweet sentiment, Pam. That's a very... And I know, hey, look, do I agree with it in my heart and soul? Sure. In the world of
politics, good luck.
Campaign strategy, when you're behind candidates,
you attack, huh?
they go negative because they've got to make up ground before people get to the polls or fill out their ballot. They need to cast. It's like court. You got to cast a seat of doubt in the jury. And that's it doesn't make for pretty politics. No, it does not.
Well, then let me speak to the voters. Vote your heart. If people get ugly, consider that. That's a tactic and a strategy. Vote your heart.
But I will say that a good example of positive campaigning that worked is the mayoral, Victorino and Bissett. Not one attack. They just concentrated on the positive things that they're trying to do in their with their campaigns. And so there you go. So you don't have to go negative, but when you're desperate, or if you think you got some big dirt on the other person that's running against you, that it's like, okay, I don't want to say this, but here it is. That's just politics.
Well, and we saw that too with the lieutenant. Not the lieutenant, but I'm thinking of it because he's a lieutenant governor now. But we saw that with the governor's race, with the information that was presented that had been presented before. And what was interesting when Vicky Cayetano and Kai came out is Kahele came out. Many people said this isn't new information. And no new facts were presented. So it was, it was an attack, and it was, as he said, along the lines of trying to cast doubt and do some of that. But it was interesting to me how many people were akamai enough to realize this had already come out before it was addressed, and he was, very upfront about it. And just kept responding and saying, well, here's where we've been and here's what we did, and yes, a mistake was made, and so it was interesting, and also an interesting attack with Sylvia Luke, and of course,
that one, honestly, I didn't. I was like, wow, where did this come from? Why is the why is the Carpenters Union, or the PRP is a political arm of the Carpenters Union, and I'm pretty sure they paid for those attack ads, and maybe I've just been out of Honolulu politics for a while, but that would surprise me. I was like, whoa, I didn't understand why she got all this this negative energy, and that one baffled me, and probably somebody from a political analyst from Honolulu could answer that one. But yeah, man, they went after full barrels. My dining room table was full of mail-in print ads about Sylvia Luke, why I shouldn't vote for her. It was, and then the stuff you saw on TV and online. Yeah, that was nuts. And then, but I do know from talking to the state, some of my friends in the state legislature, that Sylvia was the front runner from the beginning because of her. She had a lot of money. Mm-hmm. People were donating to her campaign, so I guess they thought they had to take her out early before she started spending it. Yeah, no, that was wild. And then the Kaikahele Vicky Kaitau thing, I'd never seen that before, but I do know that before the debates happened, Civil Beat released a poll that showed Josh Green with like a 30% lead.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so that might have. I mean, I that must have triggered, some sort of like sense of urgency in both the Cayetano and Kahele campaigns.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like I said, I mean, besides, I wasn't paying that much attention to the governor's race because, to me, it was always going to be Josh Green, just because he had so much exposure during COVID. I mean, he's the lieutenant governor and also a doctor. So
right.
I mean, he was on TV and online almost for 2 years.
Yeah.
During the whole pandemic. So I just thought that was just too much pre-election marketing for a lot of people to overcome.
Well, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No. And even when Kai Kahele jumped in, and I know he had been a very popular congressman, but I was just surprised. Once you get in Congress, into Congress, usually you just do your job, bide your time, and wait till you can become senator. So I was surprised. He must have had some very personal reasons to want to come home.
Yeah, that was really shocking for many people. Many people really wanted him to stay there and wanted him in that position and that role. And of course, on Oahu, he was sure doing a lot of work on the Red Hill issue, which was deeply appreciated. I know some of the neighbor island folks that I talked to, really, we all know how important water is, and we all know how important that situation is. But many people had commented to me that, they just didn't see him out and connecting with the neighbor islands as well in that race. So that was kind of surprising. But I do want to say with Lieutenant Governor Josh Green, as he goes for the gubernatorial position, throughout the pandemic, during our Business Matters radio show, he came on many times. He was always available to us. And the other thing that I was floored by, and I mean early on in the pandemic, long before we even heard of talk about him running for governor, every business meeting, every briefing, in his slides and in his discussion, he would say, "Here is my personal cell phone number. If you have an issue, please call me." I've never seen that in the history of candidates.
So, I had a brief stint as the executive director of the Maui Hotel and Lodging Association, and during that time, we had our first online MHLA conference. Usually it's like a big event at one of the hotels, but this one we had to do Zoom because of the pandemic.
Right.
We had a guest speaker. We had some guest speakers, and one of them, the main one was Lieutenant Governor Josh Green. And during the conference, with hundreds of people online, he said, "This is my cell phone number. You can call it any time." And I was like, "Whoa, are you sure you want to do that?" Okay. And he's like, "Yeah, no problem." And as far as I know, he answered every phone call. So, that's
I can tell you, I personally called him. I mean, I figure if you're going to say something like that, I deeply appreciate. I mean, first of all, in 30 years that I've been watching, observing, or really following campaigns, I've never seen any candidate do that. I can tell you that beyond inviting
he wasn't even a candidate yet.
No, exactly, and beyond inviting him to Business Matters, I called him on several issues that came up, and he thoroughly answered my question. I remember one, I can't remember what the conversation was, but it was something to do with one of our business members, and it was kind of a tricky thing, and he spent 45 minutes on the phone. He called me at night because that's when he could call. So it was 7 o'clock or something, and he spent 45 minutes on the phone with me. That earned mad respect from me, I'll tell you.
Yeah, no, and whoever's listening, I mean, I'm not saying that just answering the phone makes you, qualified to be governor, but you guys got to understand that I was getting emails and text messages and phone calls from our members every day asking, "So what are the new rules? And what do I, how do I, sanitize my lobby and and being able to talk to the lieutenant governor, who is a doctor, to answer some of these questions. I mean, it was a lifesaver, and a lot of business folks appreciate him being available. So, it's anyway. Just want to put that out there.
It was remarkable, and I do, as far as I can only speak to my own experience, and my experience was he solved my challenges as well. So not only did he talk to me, but he actually he solved the challenges, which I was appreciative of. But that's going to be, I think that one is one that many of us predicted. Rod, I have so enjoyed having you on the show, and as this progresses, let's do it again as we continue to watch these campaigns.
We didn't even get to talk about some of the other council races.
I know, but we will.
No, that's fine. That's fine. I knew once we started talking, we'd go down a rabbit hole. So, but good talking to you, Pam.
Oh, it's always a great pleasure to talk to you, Rod, and I always deeply appreciate your insight and knowledge, and I'm fascinated, again, between the correlation between the election work you've done and again, being a reporter and journalist and knowing the marketing side and analysts of these different campaigns. So let's do it again as we continue to move forward.
Oh, by the way, while we're talking, I realized there is one place that has a couple of Hungarian dishes. You got to go down to Bridget and Bernard. They got a couple of things on the menu.
Oh, good. Okay, well, I love Bridget and Bernard. So,
I think they got goulash, Hungarian goulash.
Hungarian goulash. I've never had it there, but I mean, they've got a crab cake to die for that I absolutely always get. Well, not always. They have a lot of phenomenal things, but I always have a few choices because when I get there so infrequently that I just do my staples. But there you go, Hungarian goulash at Bridget and Bernard's. Thank you for looking that up. I'm glad to know it.
I just remembered I had it one time.
Oh, awesome.
Anyway, good talk to you, Pam.
Great talking to you, Rod. Thanks a million.
Aloha.
Okay. Aloha. Have a great day. We are going to be back after a brief message from our sponsor, Mokulele Airlines, and we're going to learn about Maui Bread Company.
Mokulele Airlines operates the largest commuter airline hub in the country, right here in Kahului. Fly Mokulele from Kahului to Molokai, Lanai, Hana, Waimea, Kona, and now Hilo. Mokulele also operates the only flights between Kapalua and Honolulu. There is never a middle seat on Mokulele, and every seat has a window and aisle. Visit mokuleleairlines.com and take your next flight from the newly renovated Mokulele Terminal.
All right. Well, we're back, and I am so pleased to welcome the owner of Maui Bread Company, Steve Lange. I want to tell you a little bit about Steve. Steve was born and raised in Hamburg, Germany. He then stayed in St. Paul, Minnesota as an exchange student in 1979 to 1980, where he graduated from high school there. He then served in the German Army in a reserve officer's career and went to college where he graduated as an industrial engineer. His business career started out in military aircraft projects and changed to sales in machinery and plant equipment in renewable energy and photovoltaics. Later, he moved his family. He is married with 3 daughters to Austria, and he worked for a manufacturer for cogeneration heat and power plants. So this is a very interesting career. The next station was working in Germany as managing director for a machine and plant equipment manufacturer in the coffee industry. This position then was followed by 2 other companies in the food industry as their managing director. So he has a lot of management experience, military experience, manufacturing experience, equipment experience, and knowing how all these things work and operate. Really fascinating career. But then after 25 years at the helmet of companies of up to 750 employees, when others were starting to think about their retirement, Steve and his wife Christine moved from Germany to Maui to be the owners of the Maui Bread Company in Kihei. So I can't wait to have him talk about that huge move and why bread. He currently lives in Wai'ehu with his wife, and they say Maui is their home. They both enjoy being able to use different video call platforms to keep updated with their family and their friends and 6 grandchildren. Good morning and aloha, Steve. Are you there?
Yes, I'm here, and thank you very much for having me, Pam.
Oh, it's so great to have you on. It's been, with COVID, it's been a long time since I've gotten to see you.
Yes, that's true. It's been quite a while. And, of course, it was a journey for all of us here on the island as entrepreneurs. And it's good to be back, good to have all the tourists back, and good to be back in business.
Yes, that is so true. Well, first, I'm going to have you speak briefly because I really want to talk about the bread. But tell me about, I know a little bit of the story, but maybe tell our listeners, when you came to Maui, how did you go from that amazing career and manufacturing? So obviously you know a lot about manufacturing and food products, but why bread? How did you get to bread?
Well, to put it in a nutshell, in 2018, my wife was traveling to Oahu for a social project. And they wanted to come to Oahu and then return immediately. And both partners said, "Are you guys nuts? You're paying for a social project. You're flying halfway around the world, and you're not taking advantage of being where you are." So, as you can imagine, it took little convincing for them to stay a little longer, and they also included Maui and Kauai. They liked it so much, they came back in 2019 without a social project, 4 islands, 4 weeks. And they still loved it very, very much. And even in 18, and you do know how U.S. Americans often are, they tend to ask you, where are you from? And when my wife asked Germany, not only once or twice, people said, and where is your German bread? So even in 18, my wife came back and said, honey, I think we should open up a German bakery on one of the islands in Hawaii. And I said, yeah, honey, sure. In 2019, I was ready to do a sabbatical, and I got a call from my wife and the friends that they said, well, people are starting to ask us again, and I think there is something to it. So instead of doing your sabbatical, can you look into the fact that there may be a reason to open up a German bakery on one of the islands? So to cut a long story short, in 19, we came back. September, October, 6 weeks research trip, 4 islands. I knew pretty much everything about the bakeries, about the tourists, and also where they came from or come from, and how long they stay and how much they spend. And we ended up on those islands in Airbnbs. And here on Maui, we ended up in Kula at a very, very nice ohana. And we got to know the owners. And when the owners found out what we were looking for, and we found out what they had, all of our jaws dropped, because they were the former owners of Maui Bread Company. So can you imagine of how many different Airbnbs there are on Maui? And we ended up, or as they said, you guys parachuted in our backyard, and here you are. So they did not plan to sell Maui Bread Company, but we are very, very grateful for the fact that they offered us the platform, as they said, of Maui Bread Company to continue, which we're doing, the Hawaiian Artisan bread line, and to introduce step by step the German Artisan bread line. And COVID slowed down the whole thing quite a bit, but in the end of 2020, we were able to have our first German master baker from Germany. We had a big oven, mixers, and some other equipment to produce as authentic as possible the German recipes and therefore the breads. And on the 1st of December in 2020, we had the first German artisan breads on our shelf in our store. And since then, we keep on thriving to improve and satisfy all our customers with very good quality on the Hawaiian and on the German artisan bread lines.
It really is a phenomenal place, and who doesn't love fresh bread? I mean, everybody loves fresh bread, and it's just one of those soulful things that everybody connects with. But can you tell our audience, for people who aren't familiar with German artisan bread, tell them a little bit about what makes that bread so unique and special?
First of all, Germany is known for a large variety of different kinds of recipes, and there is one official list that one of the authorities in Germany is updating once in a while. And there is more than 3,500 different recipes for German bread. And basically what the difference is, there is usually no sugar inside. And they're organic. Very often they're vegan. And that is the difference. To let alone the fact that if you're buying a typical U.S. American loaf of bread, you can squeeze it and it doesn't make a sound. It probably is going to reshape itself into the same form that it was before you squeezed it. And the German artisan bread is not soft. It has a crust. We do use different kinds of flours, and our German master bakers are in the position to take advantage of the fact that every flour has its own fingerprint, and to make it as authentic as possible and as close as possible to the German flours or European flours. They're using up to 5 different flours in one bread, even though on the sign, on the price tag, you would only read it has wheat flour and maybe rye flour. But these flours, those 2 headline flours, are 3, 4, or even 5 different flours to be as close as possible to the German artisan bread recipes, in order to have the same quality, in order to have a very, very similar taste. And yes, some of those breads have to be prepared 24 or 48 hours before they're actually baked off. This is also something as far as sourdough is concerned, because all of our breads are based on 3 or even 4 different kinds of sourdough. That is something which is also probably fairly unique to the typical U.S. American breads or even Hawaiian bread.
Yes, very different. But folks, if you haven't had it, it's spectacular. And just a fascinating array of breads that they have, including, the Hawaiian breads that they've been carrying. And also you have other specialty products. You have some jams and jellies and different products that you also sell to complement the breads at the store as well.
Yes, that's true. We're very lucky that also they're being produced here on the island. So everything that we sell in our store is produced on the island, and we're able to bake everything ourselves, produce ourselves. And so this is really a Maui-based company, also Maui-owned, even though, yes, we are foreigners, but we feel home.
Yes. And we're so excited that this year you folks are going to be participating for the first time in the Made in Maui County Festival.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, we're very excited about that one and looking very much forward to see what this is like to be there among all the others that are also producing on this wonderful island.
Yeah, it's such a great way to connect with so many manufacturers and also wholesale buyers and distributors. But it's a great way for so many people across the island to get to know you, and they'll be fascinated with your story because that's what people love, to come and meet with the producers and learn their story. We've got about a minute and a half left, but can you tell me, Steve, tell me, I know where you're at, but can you tell everyone who's listening where your bakery and your store are in Kihei, how people can find you, and about your amazing website?
The website is www.maui.breadco, like bread like in cake, maui.breadco.com. And we're located in the Dolphin Plaza, which is right across from Kamaola Beach 1. And some people may not know where the Dolphin Plaza is, but that's the one that has the Pizza Hut in front. Our store is in the middle, and our bake shop is in the back. So we proudly say everything is being baked in-house.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Steve, for joining us today. We really appreciate having you on the show. We want to encourage everybody to go see Maui Bread Company at the Dolphin Plaza. It goes quick here on Business Matters. That's the end of our show. We want to thank Mokulele Airlines, our sponsor. I'm Pamela Timpot, President of the Maui Chamber of Commerce, wishing everybody blessings and best wishes for a beautiful Maui day. Aloha.